Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I want to announce an upcoming league that I'm planning to run. So private leagues, if you're not familiar with them, it's basically a completely separate economy that follows the fundamental same rules as the core Path of Exile game, so in this case the Metamorph Softcore Trade Enabled League, but you can add a number of additional difficulty mods if you'd like, and I'm going to go through the ones that I'm adding in here. And in addition, it's a smaller ecosystem. What this means is that there's just not going to be very many of the top meta uniques available, at least the rarer ones. So a common unique like Pyre, you can count on being able to trade for that, but something like Jeffrey's Sanctuary that's a little bit rarer, or something that's much rarer like Headhunter, may simply not exist in the league at all. And the other thing that you can do, you can still continue to complete your Metamorph challenges in this league, but of course you're going to need to level a new character up there. So, in terms of the mechanics of the Recalcitrant League, it is going to be parented to Metamorph Softcore Trade Enabled. That means that you'll be able to party and trade with other players within the league, but you will not be able to trade or party with characters that are in the normal Metamorph League, nor with, for example, hardcore Metamorph leagues or anything like that. Once you get bored with the Recalcitrant League, you're more than welcome to migrate out, and when you do that, your characters will all be removed from the Recalcitrant League and added into Metamorph Softcore Trade Enabled, or if you do this after the Metamorph League expires, then they'll be added into Standard League. In terms of the mods that you'll experience, I'm going for a number of difficulty mods. I'm not going for every difficulty mod possible, but I'm going for a considerable number of them. So, we're going with Increased Monster Damage 1. This adds 10% to monster damage. This will add a considerable element of challenge and will contribute to some one-shot deaths that wouldn't have been one-shots in normal under normal league mechanics. And there's another effect that's going to add up damage as well. So this is something that can be a little bit of extra danger and to keep you on your toes while you're leveling characters in this league. The second mod that we're adding is Increased Monster Life 2. Monsters have 40% more life. Instead of Shaper having 62 million hit points, you can expect it to be more like 86 million. This is something that's really noticeable in slowing down progression through the higher tiers of the Atlas, slowing down killing the higher tier conquerors and the like, and something that will ensure that the game continues to give you reasons to improve your character so that you can overcome these extra difficulties. Next up, I'll come to increased monster speed projectiles later. The next one I want to talk about is increased monster elemental damage. So when monsters deal physical damage, they're going to deal 15% of that physical damage as extra fire, cold, and lightning damage. This is not one of the three elements, this is all three simultaneously. What this means is that small hits will chip away much more significantly at your life, especially if your resistances aren't up to scratch. Later on, larger hits are also going to inflict ailments on you regularly. So if you take a big physical hit, you might wind up ignited, shocked, and chilled all at once, as well as losing a considerable chunk of your life. This, in conjunction with Increased Monster Damage 1, add considerable danger to monsters, and will make it so that you're going to need to be on your toes. You might need to be more powerful before you progress to certain parts of the game. So for instance, you might feel like you're not willing to take on a challenge like Izaro, the second Izaro. You might be used to doing that at level 52 in the normal leagues. You might feel that before you're willing to take on Izaro, is the second Izaro in the Cruel Labyrinth, you might want to level to 60 first. That's entirely up to you how you want to handle it, how risky you want to play. Remember, it's parented to a softcore league, so your character won't be removed from the league if you die. So you don't need to play hyper cautious, but you will of course need to consider these factors. So, we have Increased Monster Speed 2 and additional monster projectiles. This makes it considerably more difficult, but still possible, to play a game of manually dodging monster skills. With all the increased damage that monsters are doing, you're probably going to want to dodge a lot of the more dangerous attacks, and this makes it harder. Fair warning, some monsters are absolutely brutal with additional monster projectiles. Vaal comes to mind. Vaal will shred you a new one if you're not expecting it. Dominus as well. Dominus is a boss that anyone that's a veteran of this game probably finds Dominus pretty easy, but when Dominus has two additional projectiles, that lightning sort of spark spray that he fires, that's really dangerous. Lastly, in terms of mods, we're going to be adding reduced player resistances 2. This gives players minus 40% to all resistances. This is a nasty mod that means that you need to invest more into resistances on your gear than you do in the normal game. And because you're investing more into resists on gear, that means that you're less able to invest in damage on the passive tree or on gear, and that means that the impact of increased monster life 2 feels more significant than it otherwise would be. So all in all, this is a hard mode, but not a brutally hard mode. And that's the way that I'm looking to set up the league. I have in the past experimented with the no magic or rare items drop, and it is a fun mod. I highly recommend trying a league with this if you've never done so before, but I'm not going to do that. I really don't enjoy the famine, no stash or no vending mods, and I wouldn't put them in a league that I was going to run. Anyways, if you're keen to play along in this league, leave a note below or on the Path of Exile forums and I will invite you. The last thing that I want to say is that because I feel the meta in Metamorph, pun not intended, is getting a little bit stale, I wanted to impose some voluntary restrictions on skills that players use. The idea here is that the most powerful skills, there's a number of skills that are just objectively the best skills in the game at the moment, and they've got well-established best ascendancies to use them with. What I want to do is propose a list of skills that I'm encouraging players not to use. So the idea here is that there's more variety in the types of skills that players are using. So, for each ascendancy, I am prescribing a list of skill gems, mostly active skills, but some of them are support gems as well, that I'm going to encourage you not to use. You don't need to follow this advice, but it is entirely up to you, but I think it'll probably be more fun if you don't. So these skills are, for Necromancers and for Guardians, it is Skeletons, Zombies, Spectres, and Herald of Agony. For the Assassin, it is Cyclone, and it is Cast on Critical Strike. For the Saboteur, it is Pyroclast Main, Toxic Rain, Arc, and Glacial Cascade. For the Deadeye, it is Barrage and Ice Shot, and that allows you to use Barrage support. It is just the skill Barrage that's not allowed. For the Champion, it's Cyclone. For the Slayer, it is also Cyclone. For the Occultist, it is Vortex. For the Trickster, it is Essence, Drain, and Toxic Rain. For the Pathfinder, it is Scourge Arrow. For the Juggernaut, it is Cyclone, Molten Strike, and Herald of Agony. For the Ascendant, it is Blast Chain Mine Support, High Impact Mine Support, Skeletons, Zombies, Spectres, and Herald of Agony. For the Chieftain, it's Blade Vortex. For the Berserker, it's Cyclone. The Inquisitor, it's Stormbrand. And if I haven't mentioned your Ascendancy, feel free to use whatever skills you want. So that's an optional additional challenge. If you want to opt into that, then by all means, don't use those skills. On the other hand, if you like the rule set of the Recalcitrant League, but you do want to play one of those skills, then by all means, go ahead and do so. You will be able to trade with other players, but do keep in mind that there'll probably be very few people online. This causes an interesting dynamic where if you've got something that's genuinely quite rare and that not many people want, say for instance Death's Oath, the unique astral plate, you might be the only person that's got it, and you might be able to command a premium price for it in trade with other players. Or alternately, it might just be that you're sitting on a popular item in Trade League, something like Chevron's Wrappings or even Cosprey's Will, that no one wants. Anyways, if you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. The league's going to be starting pretty much immediately from the time that you see this. It'll be at 8 o'clock my time on Tuesday the 11th, which is only 30 minutes after I'm recording this. But if you've got any comments or questions, fire away. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. I hope to see you in the league.